Joining me now to talk about it is Florida Congressman Michael Waltz, member of the Armed Services Committee. Michael, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Sean.
Okay, what's your take? We're seeing protests now in the streets of China. We're seeing in some of those protests the call for the removal of Xi, actually down with the CCP or some of the chants. What do you make of what's happening in China?
Well, number one, it's a sad irony that this virus that's devastated the world and devastated so many families here in the United States is coming right back around on where it came from. But number two, what I think is so extraordinary is that these videos are even getting out for us to see. Protests happen in China. The world never knows about them because nothing can penetrate the great CCP firewall there. So the fact that they're getting out and the world is seeing what's going on is pretty extraordinary. And then thirdly, once again, we just have a tepid, weak, flaccid response from this administration, whether it's China, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran. I mean, we could go around the world where people crying out for freedom just need to hear that the United States firmly stands with you. And that's, once again, not what we're getting from this White House.
And so when you look at this, can this get some legs to it, these protests, or does the CCP actually continue its stranglehold grip on the country of China?
Well, I think they've already gotten some legs, which is extraordinary. But one has to remember that Chairman Xi's father was a senior Communist Party official during the Tiananmen Square protests. And we saw what happened there, a brutal, massive crackdown. This is far more widespread geographically, and it would be a major reversal on Xi, who's really staked his reputation and the CCP's reputation on these crackdowns and on not accepting Western vaccines, that the Chinese vaccine is just as good. It's not. So I'm not sure yet how they get out of this, but there's things we could be doing, Sean. We could be helping them penetrate the firewall, getting their word out. We should be cracking down on the amount of money, the U.S. money that's flowing into their markets and propping up the Communist Party. All of these companies here and banks that want to preach ESG and social justice here, they completely hypocritically turn a blind eye there. Elon Musk, you were talking about, how about we take down some of the Chinese bots that are spreading their propaganda all over the world through Twitter, through Facebook and other social media. So, and finally, why don't we get a TikTok ban in place? Talking about a propaganda and data gathering machine. Indian government's done it. The U.S. military's done it. This administration needs to do it too. So there are tangible things this administration could be doing, and they're not.
Can I tell you one of the distinct differences that I see, Mike, in these protests, and you see the same protests in Cuba a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, or in Venezuela? You see that communists have taken away the right to own a firearm with all of their people. And now you see Democrats in Congress saying we want to take away your right to own a firearm as well. And our founders were quite brilliant to say, you know what, your firearm isn't actually for, duck hunting or deer hunting. Firearms are an equalizing power. And I'm not suggesting that happened here, but that was the view of the founders when they set up our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. And you see when other places don't have that, they have no power against a repressive regime.
Yeah, well, look, in order for the massive redistribution of wealth, in order to take from one group of the citizenry and provide to the other, you need bureaucrats in charge picking winners and losers. And if you have a group that can resist that authoritarianship with force, that's not, communism won't work. And so, yes, the disarming of the populace has happened, back into the 19th century since communism was formed. It's a fundamental part, and we see it in these kind of countries all over the world. And it's no coincidence the same people pushing for socialism here in the United States are also the biggest pushers of gun control.
I want to get the take on the Congress because, a lot of Republicans see the threat of the rise of China, whether it's economic or military. Do you think Democrats are joining Republicans in recognizing that threat? And will they join as Americans, not with a red hat or a blue hat, join together and figure out how we can address that threat, make America stronger so we can push back militarily and economically on China?
Yes and no. We see it with some of the Democrats on the national security committees, armed services, intel, foreign affairs, that are seeing the intel, that see that she fully plans to replace the United States as a global power and the massive military buildup that's going on right now. But when you look at the progressive left, that at their core believes the United States is a misogynist, racist, colonialist, bad country and the evils of capitalism, that's exactly what the Chinese Communist Party and other dictatorships grab onto in their propaganda. And so in that sense, they're kind of aligned. And you layer on top of that the totalitarianism that is needed, the government control that is needed for wealth redistribution, and they're aligned again. And that's a huge hurdle we need to overcome as a country, because this should be a bipartisan issue.
It should be a bipartisan issue. It'd be great if every member of Congress had the view that they should put America first, our interests, our people first, as opposed to the Chinese and others. Michael Waltz, always smart. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.